talking about one of my favorite subjects today, organization. And this is a really exciting one, not only because we're talking about one of my favorite subjects of organizing and home organizing, but also we're talking to an expert in the space, which is thrilling for me. And also about her book, Ría Safford's book, The Organized Home for New Parents. This is such a genius concept. As somebody who has two little girls and a stepson, I'm constantly wanting to organize, keep the home organized, go through things. And when I was pregnant with both of my girls, I just remember this like nesting phase of wanting to organize and get prepared and not really knowing how to do that or what was important, what to prioritize, what to not prioritize for a newborn. So we're going to go over all of those things with Ría. How are you?
Hello.
I'm great.
I'm
I'm
good.
so
How are
excited
you?
and fired up to talk about this topic. This is like,
Yes, I love
so
it.
this
Me
is
too.
like when I originally was introduced to your book and everything that you do, I was like, instantly, yes, we have to do this and have this conversation, because this is something as I've become a parent and just like moved homes and been around so many different like phases of toys and stuff for kids. I am obsessed by organizing
Yes.
and keeping an organized home, which is hard with children, but it's also,
Yes.
yeah, it's also like
Nearly
can be
impossible.
very daunting and intimidating to so many people. So I think this is your book is like such a needed thing to have with parents of all different phases, but especially the new parent phase, because you're kind of like, what am I supposed to
Yeah.
do? How am I supposed to get organized? So I want to talk about your book and like everything, but I first want to talk about just how you even became an expert in this space. Like, you're a mom of three and obviously have so many things going on. So like, how did this come about?
So many things. So this is probably my favorite thing to share about being a professional organizer, is that I am naturally a very messy person, where that's not what you will usually hear from professional organizers. It's like, oh, this is the only way I've known how to live. Everything's always just so. There's always a home for everything. And I'm a bit of a walking tornado. Like, my husband jokes, like, he can come home and see everything I've done throughout the day. So it's not like it's this crazy, crazy natural thing to me. I was always good with space. I've always been creative. I could organize if I cared to do it. And I think that's what started all of this, my organization journey, if you will, was that having my daughter. So I have three kids, by the way. I have an 8-year-old daughter, a 6-year-old daughter, and a 4-year-old son. And having my daughter at 23, which was a bit of a surprise. So there was just a lot of like, what is even happening right now? There were so many things to figure out. I had never prioritized organization, in our home, and I was newly married, a new mom, and I was like, we can't live like this. And so I prioritized it in my own life, and I was able to really figure out maintainable and realistic systems that worked for me. And then it kind of evolved into like, okay, seriously, if this could work for me, this could honestly work for anybody, because this isn't like, oh, I'm just wired this way. And I think the coolest part is that I have the brain of 95% of our clients, like the clients that are reaching out of, I don't even know where to begin, I'm so overwhelmed, or I'll never be able to keep a space like this. You just need to know the right steps, and you just need to know the approach. And that's what started all of this. And this book is so special to me in the content matter that it is of helping new moms, because I was a new mom that at the time that this all started, like, that is truly the foundation of Reorganize, which is the name of my company. And the first families that I helped were new moms. So the first, like, I would go to these like mommy and me classes, which, just side note, I've never been so nervous to talk to, because literally overnight I became an expert. It was like, oh, and now I have a business and I'm a professional and you should hire me and pay me. There's a lot of imposter syndrome. It's a super weird thing to navigate. And I was part of this mommy and me class where like every week a different expert showed up and I was asked to do it. And I was like, of course, so much wisdom to share, like, just started, but here we go. And you know how those mommy me classes are, like there's
Yeah.
goldfish all over you. Kids are calling, no one's even listening to you. And I prepared like I was going to speak to 100,000 people at a conference. Like I had notes. I was like standing in front of my husband and my mom. And it was just, anyways, I've come a long way since then. But all of these moms in this crazy time of their life, like those were the first people that I really helped parents. I mean, all these new young families, it's crazy. And that's what started everything. And it's been like 7 years now. And I think we've helped over
Wow.
1,500 families at this point.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I would
I've seen
assume,
some
what
stuff.
is like the biggest thing that you see, or the biggest kind of common thread that you see with people who are becoming new parents? Because I think that like when you have a couple kids, there's obviously like, you know, which I want to get to, just like the maintaining, organizing, the doing the purging, you know, living a certain life a certain way. But when you're a new parent and you are, if you're pregnant or if you're just about to welcome a baby into your home, you also want to prepare your home for a new baby. And when you ask, I found this, I asked my girlfriends, I'm like, what do I need? And it's like, there's so many things that you need that people tell you, you need this. This is a must. You have to get this. And then when you actually have your baby, you're like, I actually don't need that much stuff. And so much of it ends up sitting in a closet until you start feeding them actual solid food. Like there's so many different phases of
Yes,
babies.
that's
And so when it
exactly
comes to
right.
like what you tell people or how you get new parents organized, what does that conversation look like, or that prep work look like?
So to answer your first question of like, what is everybody feeling at that time? Like the common, questions that
Yeah.
people have, like they're just freaking overwhelmed. And there's so much stuff, especially in today's world. I mean, there is like
Oh,
constantly new products
yeah.
coming out every single day. Like I feel like, I mean, my youngest is 4. I feel like it wasn't that long ago. And I'm like, okay, we're just short of having like hovering car seats and stroller. Like it's
Right.
like it just evolves so much. And obviously, having baby showers or being gifted all of these things, you think, okay, because I have all of these things, I have to use all of these things. And you really need to understand yourself and your family and what your personal dynamic is going to be and what your routines are going to be to know what you actually need in your house. Do you have a really small space that you have to get creative with where it doesn't make sense to have 4 different types of jumpers and swings and all of this? You want to have a very clear thought of what your goals are, which we cover so much in this book of, and I say we, me and the reader, like I feel like I'm just like your bestie, like let's do this. You don't need to be overwhelmed. Covering so much of what are your goals in this space and what are you trying to achieve here, and understanding how soon certain things need to be done and what can wait. Everybody's obsessed with the nursery reveal these days. It's very exciting. It's the decor, and there's everyone wants to post their videos and share, they're excited for the baby that's coming. Is that totally necessary for those first couple months? Like if you didn't have the time to get to, the artwork in the nursery, is your baby going to
Yeah.
thrive and survive? Absolutely. Because as I'm sure you're not spending all day, every day in your nursery like you
Right.
think you are before having a baby. You might be feeding all throughout the house. Your baby might be sleeping next to you for 6 months. And so understanding how you're going to be approaching those first couple months, that's what you're prioritizing. And
Yeah. So
everything
when
else
it
is,
comes to, let's
auxiliary.
say, people who are about to welcome a newborn, what would you say are like the top things to prioritize in a nursery or just in your home, no matter what space you're dealing with? Like, what are the things that you tell new parents or expecting parents to have organized to welcome a newborn home?
So I would say it's twofold, and it really depends on the amount of time that you have to do this. Because if you haven't approached your home as a whole, I definitely encourage that. I talk about the oxygen mask effect of parents. Like if we're not taking care of ourselves and our spaces, we can't be our best selves for everyone else. And that was something that I learned. I was always putting my room last, my closet last, my bathroom. Like that was the dumpster fire, and everybody else was taken care of. And then, my spaces were nuts. And so if you have the time, prioritizing, all of your spaces, but your everyday, like what are your daily routines and what are the spaces you're navigating from the moment you're waking up as a parent in getting through your morning routine to, okay, now it's baby time. So feeding, sleeping, playing, the things that you're doing right out of the gate. What do those first 2 months look like? Those are what you should be prioritizing, especially if you're limited on time. And we start with as early as, before even talking about how to organize the spaces, it's just how to organize your thoughts. Like you have a million thoughts before bringing your first baby. By the time 3 comes around, you're like, okay, like I got the deal. Like I know the gist, you're throwing a diaper in your back pocket when you're going out to dinner. Like you just don't have the pharmacy of a bag that you had for baby 1. But just understanding what everything's going to look like and pivoting for that. You have to figure out how you're going to be feeding. Are you trying breastfeeding? Are you getting right into formula? Babies don't all, love just the first initial bottle you get. The book will talk about how many you should be trying beforehand, when you should be focused on getting a stroller and your car seat. It kind of helps just organize that timeline for you and organize your mind. Like I feel like you're just going crazy.
I mean,
I was.
I felt the same way. It was just that like there's so many, as you were saying, products, things to get, what kind of stroller, what kind of car seat do I want, what's going to be best. And then, there's also like the whole thing with products of like dissecting what product is best. Is it the most expensive one? Is it the middle of the line one? Is it the least expensive one? Like just trying to navigate the marketplace for children can oftentimes be really overwhelming. And then also like, so much of it is unknown because you don't know how many kinds of bottles you're going to need. You don't know what your feeding system is going to be yet, or how your baby's going to sleep, or, are you putting them in a crib? Like there are so many things that are unknown that make the kind of prepping of a nursery really overwhelming and challenging. So I love that you're tackling that, because I think it's going to be so helpful for new parents and people who don't necessarily have you to come into their home as like an individual into their home. So I also, my oldest daughter is about to be 3, and then my younger one is 1. And I also have a 10-year-old stepson. So there's a lot of different like toys and needs in our home when it comes to just in our playroom area or our play space area. And then just in general with like when birthdays or holidays are come around, or just like, things in the house. I always, before I had kids, I was always the person who was like, I'm going to get this, my friend's child, like all these things. And now I'm like, please don't get our kids, like, please don't get anything. Like, it's just, it's too much. And like they have the ability to focus on like 1 or 2 things at a time, especially around like a birthday or the holidays, that they don't need all of this stuff. And so I find myself constantly going through toys, because since they're different ages, they have different interest levels and different abilities of playing with certain things. So, and this is something that I talk to my mom friends all the time about. It's like, how do you keep, you want to do those big purges, which I would love to hear how often you think people should do those purges, but also like, what are the best things or tips that you have to just maintaining an organized home if you have children, multiple children that are obviously different ages, have different interest levels, and you want to keep your home, organized and clean and not overwhelmed by stuff.
Yes. And also there are just certain, parts of this season where there is just stuff. And I feel like giving yourself permission of like, there, like, jumpers can't collapse into anything smaller. Like there's just going to be a jumper in the living room for however long. And I feel like there's so much pressure to have it so perfect. I felt that. Like, I just felt like, oh my gosh, it shouldn't look like kids live here. Or does this mean that like, I don't have it together? But there's a lot of like, just giving yourself some grace, definitely talked about in this book, because sometimes we just need that. But to answer your question, so you're exactly right. Like the less amount of toys, I feel the more dialed in and focused they are. And there are certain things that I found were very helpful and have been very successful in my home and in our clients' homes. And that's creating designated play areas. If you have a 2-story home, having a downstairs area, having an upstairs area, but really creating a home base for all things toy activity. And if you can help it with your space, not having a bunch of other toys in bedrooms. Like then it's just toys kind of get everywhere where you know that there's one home base for all of it. And really your space is going to determine how much can live there. And obviously just because you have the space, you don't want to just be filling it with stuff. And it's so easy to, I mean, and I'm super guilty of it. I mean, we're like doing a Target run and it's like, can I get this and this and this? And sometimes you're like, yeah, sure. And those are the toys they play with for like 5 seconds. So you really start to get an understanding of the toys that have more purpose and that they'll play with longer. And as far as their different ages, one, we want to keep toys current for the ages that they're in. Just because this toy might eventually be for this child, store it away. We want our whole home to be for right now. And I feel like just keeping that little thing in your head of like, okay, is this right now? Like, or am I just saving this for the next child and we're 2 years away from it? Every baby has different needs when it comes to how they navigate a play space. You know, the under 2 age, which is what the book focuses on, catch-alls are okay. You know, if you're going to have a basket of like, okay, and then putting all this stuff in here and we're tucking it away, because you're the one cleaning up for the most part. A parent is the one handling that. And I talk about how 18 months is really that golden age where they can start to help and like really feel like they're a part of the picking up and like being purposeful with that. But visibility and accessibility for whatever age group. So for your 10-year-old stepson, things can be higher up. Things can have word labels. Things can be more micro-organized because he's able to see, reach, and understand how to find something and how to put it back. And obviously there would be a big difference between what he'd be playing with and what other people or what other children would be playing with as well. And then having like your girls. So how
almost
far
2
apart?
years, like
2
21
years?
months.
Okay. So mine are 25 months in between both sets, and my first 2 are girls. So they like, while they're kind of into different things, like the younger one's always going to want to play what the older one is too. So you kind of have like almost like, you know, 2-3 years worth of different toy categories, but getting them a part of the purging process is crucial. And especially, you know, your 3-year-old, totally old enough to be able to be part of it. And what was really cool in our house was like when I first got started, I'd be working for like family friends and they'd be purging and they'd be like, oh my gosh, bring these to your girls. Your girls will love this. So my girls got to feel what that felt like for another child to choose something that is no longer theirs, but it's going to somebody else. And so that is something, you know, we talk about here, and that's what purging is. It isn't just like, you know, what are we trashing so we can load up more? It's, hey, like what are you done having fun with that another little boy or little girl can play with? And then they get really excited about it and they feel really good about the things that they're selecting. And we have a new neighbor across the street we just met. My daughter's like, we can go through our stuff and see what she wants. Yeah. God bless. Like, this sounds amazing. Like, purge it up. And then also, as far as how often, I feel like every 2 months.
Full purge or just like a simple organization?
I mean, full purge, like without a doubt, before Christmases, before anything where you're like, look, whether I want it to come or not, like we're about to have an influx of stuff, and just really understanding what can go to make room. But I feel like every 2 to 3 months, I mean, I'll dump everything out. Like we're grabbing baskets. It looks insane. And it is the best. And we literally work our way from one end and we're holding up and they're like, you know, this Barbie's sad. Like, you know, she's missing like an arm. And so we have like the trash, like non-salvageable, and the donate, and it's a whole family event. And with any organization project, you just need to be sure you're setting yourself up to have a successful project by setting the right time. So I'm not doing that and then, you know, only having 20 minutes to go through and leaving, you know, an absolute tornado in the room. It's okay, this day is designated. Like we're doing this, we're going through it. Make it fun, put on music, like make that an enjoyable process, along with cleaning up after playing their activities. And that's something you can start instilling so young, like under the 2-year age, they can understand going and finding their stuff with you and picking it up. And something is like, it's way easier said than done to be like, let's clean up this activity before the next one. But you just have to try to keep like showing up for yourself, your house, these spaces, and trying to get everybody on
Right.
the same page. Like every day is not perfect, but
I love that.
we just do
I
our
think
best.
also like one of the biggest things, my mom, when I was growing up, had the kind of like one for one model with toys that she, of course, later transferred into like bringing clothing in or bringing anything in or shoes, whatever it is that like you bring a new pair of sneakers in, you get rid of your old pair of sneakers. So you're not constantly having more things or, you know, have an overwhelming amount of things in your closet or your home. And so I think the idea of that with children was something that like was really great my mom did with us when we were little, and that I find myself doing in our home is like, if you're going to get a new toy, one toy leaves to kind of manage that. But one of the things that I always find to be really challenging when doing things like purging with kids is the kind of idea of emotional attachment to certain things that maybe they haven't seen for 6 months, that all of a sudden they see and they're like, oh wait, I can't get rid of like this, you know, this whole thing that I used to kind of do the involvement because I love the idea of that, and also the idea of, you know, understanding that like, let's give this toy to a child who maybe doesn't have access to this toy, or let's give it this toy to a child who's younger who might enjoy this toy at this time that you no longer play with. I love that conversation, and I think it's such a big part of households and children, especially if, you know, if children are in, you know, at homes that have certain amounts of toys. Like I think that's a really important conversation to have. And also it's like, is it easier? Of course it's easier to just do it without them, because then these kind of like stories don't happen of like, remember that time when I found that toy that you just brought up that I haven't seen for 8 months yet, all of a sudden I'm attached to it. So what are your suggestions with that part of it?
I would say that there's always a second parent purge. Like I definitely, like there's stuff that I just know, like if I see one more like Happy Meal toy in my kid's bin, I'm just like I'm always like selecting like no toy, like I don't need these toys, like because these are the things that just live on our like floor in the kitchen until I'm just like I can't with this anymore. No, there's always another one there, because you know what your kids are playing with, and if you're nervous, and this is for like any parent, if you're like, okay, but what if this is something really special or they ask for this, you can have like a almost donate box, store all of that stuff.
So what's the waiting period for that? Because I did this and I thought that it was a genius idea. And my husband and I talked about it. So we were like, do we really want to get rid of these things? Like, what if they ask? And then all of a sudden we've donated it, or we've given it to a family friend or whatever. So I saw a video online of like this idea of having like a kind of like a happy medium box in your garage that you like put the toys in, hide it away so the kids can't see it or have access to it, and then leave it there. But I was then kind of like, how long do you leave it there before you just totally get rid of it? Okay.
I mean, not even a month.
Like
Like
on
I
to
just
the
feel
next
like they're
thing.
like,
Yeah.
they're so, oh, on to the next. I mean, TV shows are like 8 minutes now. Like they can't even like focus on things for like, there are the items, you know, like the Legos and the blocks and Lincoln Logs and Magnetiles. Like those are really like long withstanding toys. Like, you know, and, or there are things where there's truly an emotional attachment to, but for the most part, I can't tell you how many times my kids just don't even notice certain things. And it's making room for new activities that are going to take their, you know, attention and be really exciting. You can also do toy rotation, especially with limited space. You could do toy rotation to where you do have a lot of great toys, but there's not a lot of space for it right now. Have a couple boxes, you know, set a reminder in your phone, and every 3 months you're rotating, and it's like they're getting new toys. Just to your point of when you're purging and they're like, wait, now I'm obsessed with that. It's the same with toys you already have, and you're just rotating it and they're getting really excited to play with it. Or if they're over it, then you know that that's see you later. I mean, you have to keep emptying it. It gets bananas.
And you just wonder, one of the big things that people asked with toys specifically for parents is how often to do the toy rotation, and if you're a toy rotation believer. I hadn't even heard of toy rotation until, or I guess the technical term for it, I guess like my mom was already doing it without understanding that it was actually this toy rotation, you know, activity. But How often would you suggest to do that? And is that something that you're a big believer in?
I'm absolutely a believer in that. And I think what's so cool about my job and having been in so many different people's homes, I've learned so much from my clients. And toy rotation, that was one of my first early
Yeah.
on clients where I'm like, okay, genius, like loving what you did there. That's so smart, because the more of anything,
Mhm.
I swear, the less they play. It's like they're just like overstimulated with all the things, and then there's just stuff everywhere versus these very purposeful activities. I feel like kind of 3 months is just that really sweet spot for just reevaluating everything in general. I mean, even having kids so young, their sizes are changing so quickly. Shoe sizes, all of it. There's all of these adjustments you're needing to make regularly. So make a toy rotation part of that little checklist of like, okay, now we're, from size 11 to 12 shoe, we're swapping out 4T to 5T. All of these things are just regularly going, and you don't have a choice but to do them. Like, as far as your kids' clothes and their shoes. So adding one more piece to the mix and making it a more regular routine makes it less daunting, which that's how I feel about purging in general, is the more you're regularly doing it, the easier it gets. Down to like with the clothes. In the laundry room, as I'm taking things out of the dryer, I'm like, oh, this is officially too small. I have a bin right there that I'm already setting things in, and it's a too small bin. And it either turns into storage if I'm saving it for a future child, or it turns into donate, or I'm giving it to a friend. I know when that bin is to the top, it's time for me to do my job and take it where it goes. And then we start with an empty bin again. But I'm not waiting and letting their drawers fill up where I'm taking stuff out. I'm like, this doesn't fit. This doesn't fit. That's just adding so much more stress to your day. And we want to be eliminating all of those little things. So something as simple as that and making it a regular thing keeps the purging
Are there
not
certain
so scary.
products when it comes to organization or storage that you have loved using? I used to be a person who only used clear bins, and then I found out very quickly that the kids see everything in the clear bins and they're like, I want that. What is that? So I've moved to I've tried a bunch of different kinds of bins that are just like some bins that are easily accessible to kids. This is like the kind of thing, by the way, for some people who are listening or who might watch this later who are like, why are you guys talking about bins? I love this kind of thing. Like, I'm like, what are the best bins? What are the most functional ones? Like, what ones do kids love and which ones do parents love? So are there certain organization style bins that you prefer using for, let's say, play spaces or storage spaces, or any preference there?
I would definitely say for the younger children, you want things that have structure. So a lot of those, like the cubed units, I always opt for more like real baskets. They have 4 strong sides because your kids are going to flip them upside down and think it's a step. And they're, they get crazy with the stuff. Like the bins turn into toys. So you want things that can withstand for a very good amount of time. And to your point about the clear, I absolutely agree with that too, to where lower, like visible, accessible, and stuff that you're comfortable with them grabbing themselves. And it is fun to give them like these little bits of independence of like, look at you going and grabbing your own stuff, but they're in a safe place. That's where clear is totally fine. And you want them to see those things and to know where to find them. Once it starts to get higher up and especially, unsafe for them to try to grab, I always opt for, usually I feel like I lean towards white. I lean towards white with lids. And I love lids because lids allow you to stack and it allows you to take advantage of vertical space. So many of our storage closets just stop with the shelf and then there's like 6 feet to the ceiling. Where it's like, what are we doing here? Like, I feel like we can add so many more bins. So I love a good stackable option. And if you are using clear, there's the clear acrylic that are open top. And there's also the shoebox type style to where those are stackable as well. And you can really start to incorporate those types of things when they get a little bit older and they can understand how to like pull them and put them back. But for like baby, a lot of just like big catch-all, because they just kind of live on the floor. They're playing with such random things. They have like a rattle, a teether, a smushy book. You're not necessarily having a bin of like 40 smushy books and a bin of 40 rattles. So there is just kind of like a smorgasbord of stuff. And that's okay during that phase.
It's okay. I mean, it's still like, I look at it when my girls were babies, and I'd look at it and I'd be like, this is just so frustrating. Like, it's like a whole thing. And obviously, of course, like the giving yourself grace part of it is a big one, just in all aspects of parenthood in general. And okay, so I mean, I'm so excited for your book to come out. I want to do something again closer to when your book comes out, just because like it's such a big and important subject. And I feel like since COVID, especially when we were all home and we were all going through our stuff in our home and organizing like crazy, the whole part of the importance and the focus of having an organized home, not having so much stuff all the time, whether you're an adult or a child, just like the amount of stuff that we have in our homes oftentimes is unnecessary, and how to live a more simple life that's more manageable. And of course, different steps that you can take, which is in your book, that you can help yourself and your family to maintain that, so there's not like a crazy overwhelming situation in your home.
Yes. And knowing your inventory, which I feel like that is like the number one thing that I preach, is sometimes you have things that you're going to want to keep a lot of it. And it comes down to just knowing what you have. Like, all too often there's that hallway, where clients are like, I have no idea what's in there. Or like, oh yeah, that's like our scary little closet. I don't know. And you don't want to feel that way. You want to feel like you've purposefully chosen everything that's in your home. You've gone through it all, and there's no perfect time than when this giant life transition is about to happen, to take inventory of everything you have. Do you have a need for it? Do you want it? Do you love it? Do you use it? If the answer is no for any of those, see you later. Like, it is just, you feel so good.
Yeah, I totally agree. I totally agree. And I think it's so important, just like it helps in so many aspects of life. And I'm so grateful that you took the time to talk today, and we'll make sure to do a pre-order link to your book and all the products that you were talking about. And oh my God, so excited. It's beautiful. Wow. What a great cover. That's awesome. Oh my God, this is so exciting. Congratulations. And we'll link everything. Thank you so much for the chat today. And good luck with your book launch and your pre-order campaign. It's a whole thing, and I know it.
Thank you.
It is. It's overwhelming and stressful,
the whole
but
thing.
You're doing a great job.
Very exciting.
And I'm so excited for you. So thank you.
Thank you.